everyone. This is Maheen, and welcome to the Black Business Podcast powered by Canadian SME. Now, this is a national platform that is dedicated to celebrating excellence, empowering legacy, and elevating Black entrepreneurship across Canada. Today, we are breaking down the advanced technical integration of environmental justice, corporate supply chain accountability, and green economy for workforce engineering. Because in 2026, constructing a sustainable corporate infrastructure, it requires moving past superficial compliance checklists to address systemic ecological inequities, mitigate infrastructure pollution, and really build resilient community rooted models of environmental action. Joining us to discuss this very important topic is Naolo Charles, the founder and executive director of the Black Environmental Initiative, or BEI. Naolo is a globally acclaimed environmental justice leader, ecosystem architect, and a recipient of the prestigious Clean 50 Award, holding a master's degree in environment, specializing in life cycle thinking and consumer product impact. His extensive 15-year career spans institutional philanthropy, including roles with the Ontario Trillium Foundation, RBC Foundation, and McConnell Foundation, as well as international development work in West Africa and knowledge brokering at York University. So there's lots that we will be covering today. So without a further ado, let's dive in and welcome Naolo. Naolo, it's a pleasure and a privilege to have you with us today on the show. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much, Maheen, for this introduction and for this invitation. It's always nice to be invited to speak. So thank you for thinking of me.
Absolutely. Now, the pleasure is ours. And although many standard corporate executives and small business owners, they still treat environmental justice as an abstract, probably like niche activist topic that is completely disconnected from daily commercial supply chains. So let's kind of begin our topic or our discussion by understanding the environmental justice as a core business matrix. Tell us, why should businesses care about environmental justice?
All right, thank you so much for this question. So first of all, maybe for the people who don't know what environmental justice is about, we use the term environmental justice to describe the movement that is trying to address some of the issues that we call maybe environmental racism issues in the world, and these refer to systemic issues that make it possible that some communities are disproportionately impacted by environmental issues and by the threats of climate change based sometimes on race or income. And so when we talk about environmental justice, social justice, or even environmental issues more broadly, one of the mistakes we often make is that we frame these issues as moral issues, or sometimes they're even politicized issues. And of course, there's a moral dimension to these conversations, but what we talk less about is how much these issues are connected to the long term survival and resilience of business themselves. Recent
Mhm.
global events have exposed just how interconnected our world has become. Whether it was the pandemic, disruptions to global supply chains, geopolitical conflicts, or climate related disasters, many businesses have learned that something happening thousands of kilometers away can actually affect cost, operations, staffing, insurance, and access to critical minerals. So, this is particularly important in Canada because most businesses in Canada are not actually multinational corporations. Most businesses are small businesses, and they're like construction companies, restaurants, landscaping companies, consultants, retailers, tradespeople, property managers, and sometimes their success depends heavily on the health of the communities where they operate. So a small business cannot really thrive if its community is struggling with flooding, extreme heat, poor public health, housing instability, unreliable transportation, or environmental degradation. So these are not just community issues, they're also business issues. So environmental justice is really about understanding the conditions that allow communities to flourish. And when communities flourish, local businesses are also more likely to flourish as well. Environmental justice helps us see risks that are often invisible now, and it asks us to look beyond the walls of our organizations and understand the health of the systems we depend on: the workers, customers, communities, the supply chains, and the ecosystems that make economic activity possible. So really, one of the lessons of environmental justice is that the greatest risks are often the ones we don't see because they exist somewhere else in the system. Environmental justice teaches us to look for the hidden cost and the hidden dependencies, and that's exactly the lens that we need as we enter the age of AI and other technologies.
Mm. So that recognizing that poor public policy decisions and pollution exposure directly degrade the health and life expectancy of marginalized communities forces modern brands to really reevaluate their entire procurement footprint. Now let's explore the environmental impact of AI and digital transformation. Naola, who bears the environmental cost of AI growth?
Thank you so much for this question. So, when we ask who bears the cost of AI, I actually think we need to take a step back because the deeper issue is that we often think of innovation as something that exists in the digital world, disconnected from the physical world. But every innovation depends on what I call the material economy. It depends on land, water, energy, minerals, infrastructure, workers, and communities. So the internet, we call the internet virtual, but it also depends on millions of kilometers of underground cables that are sitting at the bottom of our oceans, connecting all these centers together. It depends on data centers, energy systems, and physical infrastructure. So AI is not different, right? Behind every AI query that you send in ChatGPT, there's like a server, there's the electricity, the cooling systems, the water, the minerals, and the workers. So environmental justice asks a simple question: who bears the cost and who receives the benefits? I remember last year we did a presentation at the University of Toronto, and that was before AI data centers was really a big topic. And we talked about the announcement that came out of the American government, the Stargate investment, and we talked about that. We asked the question to the students: who's going to be paying the cost of this AI boom? And now today, a lot of people are talking about that. So across North America, we're seeing growing debates about data centers, electricity demand, water consumption, and land use. Communities are increasingly asking whether they're receiving enough benefit in return for the resources being consumed. So the challenge is not AI itself. Every major innovation creates both benefits and costs, but the real question is about how the systems are designed and whether we want to be connected to some of this cost. Maybe I'm going to end with saying um, it's not just about AI. Anything we create tends to follow the same logic of central control, and the AI system follows this logic. But there may be a different way to think about it. Maybe you don't need to have AI data centers that are huge data centers receiving all the queries. Maybe you can have some local centers. Maybe businesses using AI can have AI tools that are dedicated to their particular needs instead of having general purpose AI software that tries to do everything. And so maybe you can use AI without being connected to the cloud. So these are the conversations that I think businesses that are looking forward in the future should have now.
Right. And demanding absolute social responsibility and tech innovation guarantees that your digital advancement doesn't really trigger localized pollution or community displacement near server infrastructures. Next, now let's look at building urban resilience through green skills and community action. Tell us, how do your programs use green skills and urban forestry to strengthen communities?
Um, Maybe I just want to preface this by saying when we talk about this whole idea of how the technologies will transform us, there's also this idea that the technologies we create also create us. So we just talked about AI, for instance, and the question that I think most business owners should ask themselves is what type of human being will AI create in the future? For us at BEI, we have seen what type of human being some of the most recent technological developments have created in our communities. Disconnected human beings that are disconnected from nature, human beings that are disconnected from their original cultures. So at BEI, our work begins with a vision of the human of tomorrow. And we're trying to imagine the Black community of tomorrow And the vision we're proposing is a Black community that is connected to nature. We often talk about environmental solutions as if they're only about technology, policy, infrastructure, but ultimately, every solution depends on people. So for us, uh, we start with the recognition that Black identity has too often been defined through deficit based narratives, poverty, violence, inequality. And we're trying to shift that around to remember that we also were farmers, naturalists, environmental stewards, builders, healers. And so part of our mission is helping young people reconnect with those traditions of stewardships and community building. And we realized we could address multiple challenges at the same time. We know that many Black youth face barriers to employment. We also know that our communities need stronger connections to nature. So then when you connect the two, the theory of change is very simple. We create opportunities for young people to spend time in nature, build community, grow food, plant trees, and then they can learn environmental skills, participate in hands-on projects, and through these experiences, they can develop confidence, leadership, relationships, environmental literacy. And for some of them, that could be a pathway into a career. They can discover opportunities in urban forestry, conservation, environmental education, sustainability, food systems. And so, really, we're not just trying to do the work of planting a tree. Our goal is not just to grow forests, but we're trying to grow communities.
Mhm. So connecting urban architecture and agriculture and tree canopy expansion directly to low-income areas systematically, it repairs public health outcomes while creating localized food security, which is an amazing initiative. Now let's explore how the green economy can create pathways to employment. How are you preparing youth for careers in the green economy?
Right. So we have four in our. We have a green jobs priority that has four different streams. So the first stream is jobs in environmental policy. So these are the people that are working in nonprofits, government policy. We need people from our communities to be a part of that. We have green construction jobs that are connected more to construction, and maybe for some of the members of our communities that haven't gone to higher education but that still need decent jobs. Uh, we can connect profiles like youth at risk, youth that have been involved in the prison system, newcomers to this type of opportunities. Then we have nature-based jobs that are maybe jobs in horticulture, those people who wants to work in farming and things like that. And then we have climate science. So these are the four streams that we have designed since the beginning of BEI, where we're trying to create jobs for our communities. So the first step for us, though, is environmental education, because we want the young people to understand the environmental and social issues that are affecting their communities and how those issues connect to larger systems. And because we believe that when people understand these issues, they begin to care. And when they care, they become more motivated to contribute to solutions. Then the second step is exposure, making sure that they get to meet people that are working in these industries. They can see how it is to work there through workshops, through internships, and giving them kind of a practical experience of working in a particular sector.
Mhm.
And one lesson that we learn is that it's not enough to just create access. It's not enough to just give them one foot in the door. It's also important to have long-term mentoring of the youth, but not just mentoring of the youth, but also mentoring of the organizations that welcome them and that hire them. Because hiring a youth from a Black community, a brown community, uh, requires a certain level of cultural adaptation. And we actually learn over time that organizations like ours can play a role in making this matching more successful. So we're also very intentional about reaching young people who may have fewer opportunities. Not everyone goes through traditional educational pathways. Some people may face barriers related to poverty, exclusion, and we believe that the green economy can be an alternative pathway to meaningful work for many of these youth. So ultimately, our goal is not just to simply place young people into jobs. I like to say that we're not We're not a placement agency for the green economy. We're an organization that creates agency for the workers in the green economy, and it's different, right? Yeah, so I hope I answered your questions.
You really did. Thank you so much for being so detailed, Naolo. And you're right. Providing targeted green skills training ensures that the high-paying jobs of the future economy are built on equitable access rather than legacy exclusion. Finally, let's look at changing leadership narratives and expanding opportunities for underserved communities. Tell us, how can funding systems better support grassroots and community-led organizations?
Yeah, this is a very important question. So, having worked in philanthropy across multiple foundations, I think one of the lessons I've learned is that the funding systems, they don't operate in a vacuum. Just like the businesses, they're influenced by the broader social, political, and economic trends. And over times, we really see cycles in society. So certain issues gain attention, resources flow towards them, and then public attention shifts somewhere else, right? So the challenge is that many of the issues philanthropy is trying to address, poverty, environmental justice, reconciliation, social cohesion, climate resilience, those are long-term challenges. So they don't operate on news cycles, right? So it's important. I think one of the most important roles philanthropy can play is providing that long-term consistency in how they are showing up for communities. For instance, right now, if it's not very popular to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, really we want to see philanthropy play a leading role there instead of just following trends, to be trendsetters and actually commit. We see some foundations that are doing that, that are actually doubling down on diversity, equity, and inclusion, even if people are trying to prevent that. And so I think it's important, especially in the Canadian context. A lot of people don't know, but we have the Charter of Rights that protects a lot of the work that is dedicated to marginalized communities in a way that maybe they don't have that in America. And I think that foundations should feel, and philanthropy in general should feel comfortable kind of committing to long-term objectives when it comes to racial equity and all these different equity work. The other thing may be grassroots organizations are often asked to solve long term problems while relying on short term funding. So, philanthropy could commit to more long term funding, multi year funding to promote a bit more consistency in communities.
Challenging the traditional restrictive funding paradigms allows community rooted innovators to scale long term systems transformation and fully define themselves on their own terms. But this incredible masterclass in connecting environmental justice with corporate responsibility and youth economic mobility, it brings us perfectly to our final conclusion. Now, Lo, as we wrap up, what advice would you give businesses that are looking to address environmental blind spots?
I think when we're looking at the world right now, I think it's a world that is going through many transformations. And I think a well advised business leader may want to think ahead of, or instead of just looking at what's happening right now. So if you want to learn more about your environmental blind spots, you want to do it with a mindset of innovation. So you're not just doing that to comply to existing regulations and laws, but you're doing that to better understand your business itself, right? Because your business is connected to all type of different processes around the world, and you want to understand the stories behind your business, and that's going to lead you to actual innovation. That's going to lead you to be a better business for your clients. It's going to lead you to design better products as well. So, one of the ways that businesses can learn their stories, their social and environmental stories, the social and environmental stories of their products and services, is by applying what we call the life cycle thinking approach. And what this means is that you're looking at all your processes, your products, and you try to understand what natural resources each one of these processes rely on from the extraction of the materials that you needed to create that service or that product to consumption and to the disposal of it. So it's a very complex thing, but the spirit of it is not complex. It's just to understand if that was a person, if your business is a person, what are the resources that your business require during its entire life. If you want to do it the right way, you will have to pay for what they call a life cycle assessment, and this is really expensive. And I don't discourage businesses to do so. But one of the easiest way that you can do it without having to go and pay some hefty bills to consulting firms is by paying attention to the environmental justice stories connected to your businesses, paying attention to which communities around the world in your local area are being impacted by your business practices, by the business practices of your suppliers, and everything connected to your story. And the reason why it's important for you to do that is that if you know it, you can prepare before crisis happen. Because even if right now we're in a world where DNI is not a big thing, these things tend to be seasonal. There's going to be another season where we're going to start caring about these things again. Do you want to build a business that's going to be exposed to risk that you're not aware of? So I would recommend people pay attention to that. But you can also, by learning the aegis story of your products and services, you can also find opportunities to improve. You can improve processes. You can create more synergy, and you can save energy and resources. So I would recommend to pay attention to the aegis stories connected to the work that you're doing. Maybe a last example I can give you. Okay, so if you're looking, for instance, at a company that is building stainless glass bottles, uh, if you're only thinking in terms of sustainability, you will think, okay, well, these are reusable bottles, so this is good for the environment, and we should purchase that, you know. But if you're looking at the EJ story, what you will find is that these bottles require a lot of they require nickel in their production. And you will learn, for instance, that nickel production creates a lot of issues in Indonesia. You may have a business here that just is using these water bottles and that has nothing to do with Indonesia. But because of your connection through your supply chain, uh, it means that risk in Indonesia can have an impact on your business today. So this is why, for me, I think studying the EJ story is connected to the products you consume, the material you're getting from nature, from the world. Knowing the EJ stories behind it makes you be a safer business and makes you be a better business.
That is a great and exceptional reminder that challenging our baseline assumptions about what is realistic is the ultimate way to trigger meaningful change. Thank you so much, Naolo, for joining us and sharing such great expertise and your insights.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that was Naolo Charles from the Black Environmental Initiative, a masterclass in uncovering the hidden environmental costs of technological infrastructure, leveraging urban forestry to build resilient communities, and understanding why climate justice is deeply connected to corporate supply chain health in 2026. Thank you for being part of the podcast powered by Canadian SME. Your support helps advance visibility, equity, and opportunity for Black entrepreneurs across Canada. Please stay connected, stay inspired, and continue building legacy in motion.